I have a few questions, but I want to skip forward because you talk a lot about putting yourself out there and reach out to people. So I want to kind of go into your Instagram part of your career. So like you have almost now close to 100,000 followers.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
And the thing is, like you put out a comic on Instagram every few days, pretty much.
I tried to.
And you've been quite well, more than quite. You're doing it for quite some time, and you're really constant in this production, let's say. How did these Instagram web comic series started? Like how did it come about, and how, like, did you know you would be so constant? Like you were like, I'm gonna make a comic and I'm gonna make a comic every. How did it start?
Like what we've already talked, like during university we had this drawing course, and that was the first time that I was like, yeah, maybe drawing, I enjoyed it as a kid. I never like looked at it as a profession. But yeah, we had this drawing course and it was interesting, and I just started my Instagram and I did like those 30 days drawing challenge with a friend, and that was like the start of it all. So we did that. I mean, you can scroll back, very crappy drawing. But still, I don't even remember. I think I just like kept posting drawings. And then when I was like, okay, I want to try this out with storyboarding, and even did my self-study period, I used it to like maybe even track my progress, or to be honest, it's just fun. Like it's fun when people like it. But I had maybe 30 likes or so, but it was still fun. And then I think it just developed maybe 2 years ago from just like drawings to maybe story sketches. And I thought, the response is better and it's more fun for me to make like 2 panels. Yeah, to publish stories. And I think I grew better at drawing, so it was easier for me. It was also practice. Like if you say like I publish a drawing a week, then you need to do it, and it's good for practicing. So that was maybe also a reason. And then, well, the comics just kind of came about from this, that I started for my friends, like making not daily comics, but just like stories about daily life. And again, I don't know, I think it was kind of a year ago that another account those accounts that post comics from other accounts. So one of them picked me up, and that's how it started to grow. It was so crazy. Suddenly, like I maybe had like 100 or 150 likes per post, and I don't know how many followers, maybe 1,000, maybe. And then they picked me up, and then I'm still very like amazed by that. And so to answer the question, I never intended to make a comic, and I still don't see it as a comic series. If you look at it, the colors are non-consistent at all. I just draw what I feel like. I change the colors all the time. I change the brushes, and I like it that way. It's still like personal and a balance to work, and still like something I use to practice. I want to publish more storyboarding work and practice more in this field, but it's just more fun to make comics. But yeah, I have to be stricter with myself. But yeah, so it's just personal.
So like the consistency was just something that happened, or did you at some point did you start thinking I'm gonna have to put out a comic every certain amount of days?
Yeah, you asked me that before our talk, and I don't really have an answer. I don't know. I think it's probably a mixture of it all. It's fun for me. So that's the main reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. It's like a playground for me where I can practice. And then it's also important. I don't know if you're the same, but like we're working to visualize someone else's vision. And with Instagram or whatever, you can publish whatever you like. And you're the only one who has something to say. Nobody's telling you, no, that's not working, blah, blah, blah. It's just your project. And I need that as a balance. I'm happy to work for others, but I also like to have my own little project. And then the other thing is about like consistency. I guess it's good to have an online presence as a remote artist to like like we've already talked many times, to get people's attention and get job offers and stuff. So that's also like, it's a mixture of all of that.
Do you feel there was a change in your professional career when your Instagram grew or not? Did that make any difference, any visible difference to you, or for example, did anyone from the industry or someone who hired you said, "Oh, I saw your Instagram" or something?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Netflix. And to be honest, it exploded. It started to grow my Instagram account like between those two jobs. So I don't know about others. So Netflix, I was in touch before, and then it started to grow. And some people I work with now, they knew me before, which is crazy. So that's maybe a point. And I think in the future, I know that some recruiters are following me, which is nice. So I hope like they see what I do. And then I got in touch with other artists. So that's very nice. And if you like from other studios, and you suddenly can like talk to them and exchange stuff, or like people from Disney or so on, that's very cool. So yeah, but otherwise, no.
Still, like social media is a big part, I guess, when you work remote to be visible.
Yeah, I think it's very important. For me, it's like the main reason like why I was hired in the first place. So yeah.
So you don't have any problem with procrastination? Like, just when you want to do comics, you do comics. When you do storyboard, you do storyboard. Or do you ever face like artist block?
What is artist block really? Is it like for a longer period of time, or can it also be just like a day? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have it. Or I don't know, for me it's just life. It's like you're not feeling the same every week or every day, right? So there are days where I have like a ton of ideas and I could draw 10 comic stories or whatever, and there are days where I find it harder to come up with ideas. But then you can make just a silly story about not having ideas, so you can turn it around.
But so yeah. It's interesting because like I guess like you don't have the artist block because you don't call it artist block, so you don't feel as if you're blocked. You just feel like it's just part of life. Maybe that's interesting. Do you ever though, because I know like some artists also, when they have artist block, is because they just don't want to draw. Like it's not just the idea, it's just like they don't feel like drawing or something like that. Mm-hmm. I know I have that. I have days in which I'm like really like thinking about drawing. I'm like, I really want to do something else, and I do actually. I often do. So do you ever feel like that or not?
Yes, definitely. So okay. To be honest,
do you try to overcome it, or do you just like let it be and let it pass?
No, I think I'm chaotic, but I'm also kind of disciplined with like my emails and that about me, about reaching out and stuff. And it's the same, I think, with like, just because I know I have an account and the people that are following me, it doesn't matter how many. It really doesn't matter in my head. It's just like, okay, they're used to getting a post. Even if nobody would see it in my head, it's still the same. Oh no, I usually do that. So I have kind of this urge that I need to do it. And I'm more like, that's so funny. But when I have stress at work, like a lot, like overtime and stuff, it's easier for me to create comics because it's just like something fun to think about. And when we have downtime, I find it way harder to sit at my desk and draw something because I'm like, no, I want to go outside. But then again, I post maybe 2 times a week, so that's not that much. And you can do like a small story.
A lot. That's a lot to me. Like I personally, like Instagram is something I can't.
But you do these YouTube videos, so I wouldn't want to do that.
Maybe I want to do too much.
Yeah.
So I'll jump back to actually no, there's one question about Instagram I want to ask. It's like, do you feel the comics brought something different to your everyday job, like skills wise or storytelling wise, or do you feel like there are two separate worlds?
That's a good question. I've never thought about that, but I guess what it brings to the job is just like practice, because you're drawing, right? And I still, like, when I look at my stuff, that's a bad habit, but maybe, I guess many people have it. I just see my mistakes. Like, even if I take a post of mine from last week, I think, oh my gosh, I would draw it different now. And so I guess it's a practice, and also to play around with colors and try out brushes. Or what's the most fun part for me is coming up with ideas. So I like that. And you can test out comedy and stuff, I guess. That's kind of, so that goes into work, right? Because we're storytellers, so we need that gene. And what was the other thing? What's the question?
I think that's it. I was asking what brought you to your everyday job. So I guess, practicing visual storytelling it's like a gym for your storyboarding. Like you just practice.
Yeah.
Talking about storyboarding then, what is your process now when you get like a sequence, for example? How do you approach storyboarding? I know that, for example, like personally, I like to, if I have time, depends on the production, but if I have enough time, I like to first write down a sort of shot list where I think about the reason why I want to shot. Like there's a certain emotion the character has, and I'm like, I want to close up here because I want to see this emotion, then I want to cut wide because I want to see this interaction between two characters, something like that. And that's something I picked up from a friend of mine who works in Vancouver, Wei Li. What's your process? Do you go straight into thumbnailing maybe, or?
No, I guess I'm similar as you are. And normally when we get the script, so it doesn't matter which studio, but they always tell you like, or most cases, I think, that's like those story points are the most important ones in this sequence. So it's important that this emotion or this change in the character comes to display. So I guess I first look at those parts, like what's like the reason of this sequence, and how do my characters feel? How do they change within the scene or sequence? How do they feel at the end? And like what's coming next? What's before my sequence? Where are they emotionally, like on their arc? And then, like you said, I scribble around, and maybe sometimes while reading you already have pictures in your head, right? So I thumbnail them on the script pages. So I have those for sure that I want to have this kind of, I like it, maybe the director later says no, but that's like the first image I have in my mind. And then usually, because I still feel like I'm learning a ton, or need to learn a ton, especially in cinematography, I look up references. So maybe I remember a scene from another movie, or they're like websites that they have an overview of films and like scenes about action or whatever what you're looking at. So I look at a lot of references to just get inspired and see like, oh, would also be a nice shot. And yeah,
I do that too. Like I often go to, there's a website called Cinematic Painting, I think.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Cinematic Painting. I'm gonna put a link somewhere. I'm gonna put it on the screen somewhere here. And they just have the most beautiful shots from a different bunch of movies.
Oh, really?
So I just scroll through them, and then sometimes like I'm thinking like I'm looking at them like, oh, this moment could use this kind of upshot because like, so like I take that and then I change it by get inspired by those frames. That's interesting. Do you keep a library of those images, or do you just like go around and sketches? Because like, for example, like I do that for TV shows. For example, like the TV shows I'm on now has a certain, I would say, to me, medieval vibe. Mm-hmm. So I go through all these, I try to find shots that I think might be useful at some point. Like if I know that someone has a gun, which they don't in this show, but if someone has a gun and I see like a bunch of shots with gangster movies and stuff, I just grab them, put it in a folder, and I'm like, eventually I know that in one episode they might use a gun. and I wanna use maybe a shot like this, or maybe a shot like that, or I don't know. So I keep actual folders for my projects. Do you have something like that or not?
Yeah, similar. So like, I when I look at references, I take screen grabs and I keep them. To be honest, though, I seldomly go back and look at stuff I already have. So when I get a new sequence, I get new references, which maybe is a little bit stupid, but yeah, and I bookmark a lot.
Well, like in my case, the reason why I go back is because I do this before my first episode on a show.
Ah, okay.
So like I'm just collecting images that I feel will be in sync with what I think the show is. So like when I'm stuck, I just go back and look at all these picture screen grabs, and I'm looking for something that inspires me or that triggers. Because I feel like when you're stuck in a sequence, to me, you just need like an image, like a powerful image, and then that sometimes like makes everything work after. Like you're blocked, you can't find a solution for a sequence. But then when you find like a powerful moment, then you can build, like everything comes into place afterwards. At least that's how I feel. But
yeah, I don't know if I do that. I think whenever I'm lost in a sequence, I go back and look at the art of our movie, like to see, or maybe usually you have kind of a story Bible. So I go back to remind myself, hey, what's this movie actually about, and who are the characters, what's the heart, and what's the main like feeling we want to support. More, I think I'm more this way.
Yeah, well, and at the same time, like, to me, for example, I have to say, like, I have a general way I work, a general process, but then it also changes according to my mood. Like sometimes like a process that I always use just doesn't work that day. But like, I don't know, that's me. But
I do a lot with music, actually. Do you have that too?
What do you mean by music? Like you choose certain music that fits the show, the film?
Yeah, so I get in the mood, and then it's much easier for me to come up with visuals. So I started that on Spotify. Like I have my own little film music playlist that I have different songs or scores for, like, okay, when it's a sad scene, so I get inspired by that.
I had this experience with this show where the director sent us music he picked. We felt like it was like music that kind of fit the show, and that was really that was really nice. Also because like at that point you're not guessing what music might work for the show. You're already hearing the music that someone else picked, so it's even easier to work toward their vision because they're kind of giving a glimpse. Because like music is not completely rational, right? Like so like somehow like explain their vision without words, and that I find that helps. But that happened just once to me, I think.
But do you never listen, like, if you have a specific scene to a certain soundtrack to get you in the mood?
It depends on what I'm doing. Like when I'm thinking of the shots, no, I can't listen to anything. Okay. Like that's actually the only moment I don't listen to music or watch or listen to podcasts and stuff is when I'm trying to come up with the actual shots.
Okay,
and then I do listen to music when I'm executing what I thought I was gonna do. That helps maybe with also like drawing the poses, maybe because like you have that mood and stuff. But like the actual coming up with how I'm gonna break down the sequence in shots, I can't listen to anything.
Yeah, so when I work it out, like this shot and this shot, then I don't listen to music, but to come up with the first shots. I think I often listen to music.
So we are doing the opposite. Is that
kind of. Well, then I listen to music again when you're like cleaning out your roughs and different music. But I think when I listen to certain scores, I always see pictures, and you can transfer them to the script. I don't know. I think it helps.
Well, I feel like the reason why I don't listen to music is that I'm very I try to be very rational about why I use a certain shot. But I don't know. I'll try your method.
Just as inspiration, then I go over it again and like, okay, that's not working, and that's not. Yeah, just as a first, like to come up with first ideas and stuff before you go in and.
I don't know. I'll try.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
Even if I find that, like, for example, on TV sometimes, when I'm working on TV, I feel like I don't have as much time as on feature. So like I find myself sometimes not even writing down the whole shot list because I feel like I don't have time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But time is like another element that like destroys everything. So if you don't have time, you just
like in an ideal world, I would like to write down stuff, think about why I'm doing these shots, and then go over the shots, and then go over the shot I already drew and make them better. But in the real world, you don't have all the time. That's why like I feel like personal projects are always nicer. Like boards wise, like like my personal boards, I have time to go back and make them look nicer, and I feel like you see that in feature film. I saw like some amazing boards for Spider-Verse, and the story artist didn't even had time to fill the space behind the character. Like you saw the character drawn, and it looks like the boards look amazing, but they didn't have time to like fill the space behind them. So you see the background through the character, and it doesn't bother you at all. So like it was not essential. It just in an ideal world probably I will go back and put something behind the character so you don't see the background through the character. But But I like that sometimes. It's so gestural and it lives more. And when you go and clean up, that's like one of the things I'm struggling now is like to find the right balance, because I'm going back looking my old work, and I mean like for when I was a Cinesite, for example, I find my work was almost too rough sometimes, but also not.
I liked it.
not very fluid. Like if you look like story artists I really like, they have like these like nice one line almost gesture. But if you look at my work, I tend to do like multiple lines here and there. So I'm now trying to find my way toward that perfect almost one stroke gesture. That's my goal. And if I go back and watch and look at my TV stuff, I find that I tend to over clean up. And so I find that I'm now working on finding that balance of rough and clean. That in the best story artists in feature, I find they have this like nice balance, and I'm like I'm always so blown away. Anyway.
Yeah, same. I can't look at other storyboards for too long, otherwise I feel so bad when people are so talented.
At the same time, like when I look at their work, I notice how sometimes like a drawing looks beautiful to me, but if I start analyzing it, it's not perfect. Like the hand, sometimes they don't even draw the fit, because like the fit is not the point of the pose over the story. So they just draw these like those legs, and they don't draw the fit, and that reminds me that I am striving to a perfection that makes no sense in storyboarding. So that's a good reminder.
And Toby Shelton that you mentioned before, I think he's like a perfect example for like not many strokes, but still it lifts so much.
Yeah, I love his drawing. I actually like now that I took some time off from, well, I work, but I just do one studio work at a time. So like I started going in.
Oh, they look amazing. Yeah.
So like these are like Toby Shelton drawings, and I went back and just like tried to copy his.
Yeah, I do that too.
Right?
As a warm up.
Like some of his like characters for like.
There's
How to Train Your Dragon, like and it's just like a few lines, and you feel like all this pose. And I find like the other thing I really love about these story artists is that every character feels they have a different life. Like the way it's a few strokes, but one character feels really heavy and sad, and the other character is like childish, and they can really like, I don't know, I just look up to them so much. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, me too. No, I'm completely the same, and I often do this as a warm up, that I just like copy drawings from people that I admire, just to like find out how they draw the stuff, their shortcuts, and I think we all have a habit how we draw things, and it's good to break out.
Yeah. And the other thing I'm now trying to do as an exercise is to copy someone else's stuff like Toby Shelton, and then try to do something like life drawing and try to right away apply that.
Ah, that's cool. Yeah.
Which is not easy. Like you copy his drawings and you can actually achieve something very similar once you see how he draws and you just copy it. But when you try to apply that on life drawing, it's way harder. Like,
but that's a great idea. I want to try that.
So yeah, let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
We're almost at the end. I want to ask you what inspires you lately as films, books, comics, and the other thing is like someone asked me the same question some time ago, a few weeks ago, and they asked me if I feel like those influences are they change the way I work in my studio.
Really?
And I was thinking, like, for example, like I watched I don't know, like for example Inception, that for some reason I never watched before, but I watched it and I loved the film, but at the same time I don't know if that actually changes the way I tell my stories for studio work. So do you feel like your influence kind of influence your storyboarding for the studio, and what are these films and books that kind of inspires you lately?
So
there are too many questions at once.
No. It's just that I was just recently asked about inspiration as well, and I find it so hard to answer. I mean, there's so many things, but I can't pin it down to one thing. So I guess every time I watch a movie, or I just rewatch the whole Scrubs series, so I guess I'm inspired by that at the moment. Or then whatever book I'm reading at the moment, I'm sure it inspires me, even if it's unconsciously. And and if it, I think if you watch something or read something, whatever, if you see a comic, it's kind of in the back of your mind, but still very present. So I think automatically when you work like at the studio, you're probably inspired by it without even noticing. And even like now we have a lot of brainstorming sessions at the moment at the production I'm on. And I'm sure like if I watch the movie and I see a character that is similar to one of ours, I will bring it up. So I guess I'm kind of inspired, but wouldn't you say that's just normal? Like what you see is like what's in your mind?
I find this question hard too. Like I find, but at the same time, like for example, I said this many times before, my favorite director is Martin Scorsese. But
read about that.
But my point is, you know, when I was working on a preschool show, like I don't know, Thomas the Tank Engine, I don't think Martin Scorsese
in there.
influenced by storytelling, right? So I find it hard to say. I don't know. Maybe feature film is different, but at the same time, I don't know.
But you know, there with feature film, I mean, like we said before, it's the director's vision. So even if we're inspired by Scorsese, or for me, for example, I love the work of Wes Anderson, which is probably a typical answer, but I love his films and his visuals. But then again, if the inspiration for our movie is someone completely different, whatever you're working on, then it doesn't matter if you personally are inspired by Scorsese. It's still not what they ask of you. So
actually, though, now that I'm thinking about it and we're talking, I was thinking, you know, there's a scene in The Departed, the film, that I really like. And I think that's a good example of probably how you can bring that storytelling into your storyboards. And the scene is like when Costello, like the
I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, like the.
Okay.
I'm gonna explain. So like there's a spoiler alert. Skip the next few minutes. The DiCaprio is one of the main characters. He's like infiltrated into a mob organization, and Jack Nicholson is the boss of this Irish mob. And so like the scene is the first time DiCaprio meets Jack Nicholson, and his goal is to be part of this organization, to be infiltrated, right? And what they do is like I'm gonna skip through some details, but like he's
Sure.
like sitting at the bar drinking, and then he's watching TV, and then the camera focuses on two ladies at the other side of the bar, just talking, like gossiping, right? And they are like chatting, and then one of them looks back toward DiCaprio, and they go back to chatting, and it's almost a double take. He looks back, she looks back, go back, and then they both stop talking, and they freeze, and the camera slowly pan across, and we see DiCaprio looking at the ladies, and then we see Jack Nicholson coming in, but on the other side. So like the reaction of the ladies give you a sense of how menacing the Jack Nicholson character is.
Oh, that's cool.
So I feel like even if I cannot bring maybe that the gangster movie storytelling, I can still bring in something like that, right? That like some character comes in, and instead of maybe like the script just says the character comes in, and maybe I can propose to add the reaction of some off-screen character. So maybe that's how. Anyway, I'm thinking out loud here.
No, but that's absolutely true. I think that's why we look at references in general, I think it's very important to look at other films, because I think all of us, we have kind of a shortcut we go to, and
usually it's very
limited,
lazy,
right?
Usually it's a very lazy one.
And then you start to board scenes again, as you've already had. I'm like, oh no, I can't always make a reveal like that. Yeah, I need to know more how you can reveal a character or an exposition or whatever. So you need to look at the many, many movies.
And I find that is true also for acting. When I look back at my first boards, I feel like I had a tendency to just do like a very obvious acting. And the more I look back, the more I realize that people react in very subtle but also complicated ways. And usually like the first thing you think is the pose you're gonna draw is probably not the best pose.
Yeah.
That's my feeling now. I feel like I need to stop and think how the character actually would act in that situation. Anyway.
Yeah, and to find those nuances, everyone's different. I find it hard as well. Like no one smiles the same, but make that in a drawing. Yeah.
So to wrap up the whole chat, do you have any future goals? I mean, like you said, like at the beginning was just to be a revisionist, then was to be a board artist on a feature. Now you're boarding on an awesome studio, in an awesome studio like Netflix. Do you have any goals ahead? Like, for example, like one thing I always ask everybody is like, would you like to direct, for example, one day, or also do you have maybe personal project on the side?
No. So my long-term goal is of course directing. I would love to direct my own feature. Like in a perfect world, I would even have written the feature. So because I like the storytelling aspect the most of storyboarding. Camera's cool, drawing is cool, but storytelling is like amazing. So I want to become a director, and for that, but still, I think I'm learning so much every day. I'm still starting out and getting into the feature world as a story artist, and I guess a natural step would be to become head of story one day and then director. And I think because I didn't go to animation school, it's a great learning experience as well. So it's a good approach. But then, like everyone, I have like tons of personal projects and ideas on the side. I have been a little bit lazy in the last couple of months, but I want to push it again and maybe start. I mean, with the social media, the cool thing is that we can all publish, so we should use it. And to like, if you want to be a director, I guess I can start to direct little things or make longer stories, maybe even just in beats, just to like put it out there, practice getting better.
And would you like to explore different media eventually? Like, would you like to expand maybe your comic into an actual graphic novel, or I don't know, trying live action? Because I know, like for example, I would like to explore more like shorts in live action and stuff like that. Is that interest you, or you like really love the animation media? You just want to develop that career, focus on that?
No, I like all of the medias. I've never really thought about a graphic novel, but I think that's interesting in general. I would love to direct an animated feature, but it would even be cooler to, not cooler, but the same cool, to direct live action. But I think just because we're working now in animation, it's easier to go that route. Live action is something else completely again. But at the university I was at, the main focus was like filming live action for commercials, of course, but with cameras and stuff. So I'm a little bit familiar with it. I have some experience. Yeah, but still there's like a ton to learn before you can direct, I think.
So at the end of this interview, I guess I would ask you if you have, I mean, like you already gave a lot of good advices to people who wants to work in this industry, but do you have any final recommendation or like something you want to add for, especially for those who ask about someone who didn't go through North American school system? What could be,
I think we mentioned a lot of stuff like approach people, don't be shy, like knock on all the doors. That's essential because you're so far away. And then like no self-doubt, or even if you self-doubt, still pick yourself up again, believe in yourself. I think that's very, very important. I don't know, maybe just...
I guess especially being conscious that self-doubt is a very normal...
It's very common, totally normal.
It doesn't matter how good someone is, most people will still face it. So.
Yeah, like you said, people there are, I don't know, very experienced, and then you read interviews with them and they tell about self-doubt, and like, what, you? But yeah, we all have. And I guess if you're starting remote, as I did, or still am, or in a country where there's like no animation industry, I would say just don't get discouraged. Even if like the people around you don't work in animation or do something similar, doesn't matter, just like listen to yourself, follow your path. And I'm a strong believer, if you put in the work, like you can't be lazy, you have to do your part. But if you're consistent and work on yourself and you mean well, I'm sure it pays out in the end. So go for it.
All right, on this positive note, thank you so much for taking the time.
Sure, thank you.
And again, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff, because it helps YouTube showing the video to more people. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.